We now see a clear Republican divide over the FBI search at Mar-a-Lago. More senior and serious voices in the party follow facts.
The FBI is simply carrying out their responsibilities under the law, a lawful search warrant that a magistrate signed off on. And they didn't go in there with FBI raid jackets. They tried to constrain their behavior carrying out that warrant. So let's support law enforcement. Let's stand with them.
But voices like Governor Hutchinson are often loudly drowned out by those who hope to tap the anti-establishment zeal of the Trump base.
They're enforcing the law based on who they like and who they don't like. That is not a republic. Well, it may be. It's a banana republic when that happens.
With me to share their reporting and their insights, CNN's Nia Malika Henderson, Sungmin Kim of the Associated Press, and Heather Cagle of Punchbowl News. It is fascinating. You did see over the weekend, especially more senior, experienced voices in the Republican Party, after they saw, 11 classified document sets, they backed off a little bit and said, let's let this play out. But you have the voices who just want Donald Trump can do no wrong.
That's right. And Donald Trump whipping them up from, sort of run-of-the-mill folks who might be incited to violence against the FBI to people like Marjorie Taylor Greene saying defund the police, and then people just wanting to be on Trump's side on this. Lots of people haven't quite figured out how to do what Asa Hutchinson there did, who notably isn't running for re-election and has a bit of freedom there to critique this president and to bolster the FBI. I mean, God forbid. I mean, we have a party that now seems to be anti-law enforcement. When they talk about this, it's quite frightening. It's dangerous. And you know that this is something that Donald Trump wants. I mean, he wants to stir up this anti-FBI sentiment across the country, and it's a real danger.
Republicans have long prided themselves on being the party of law and order. They have in recent years tried to use the progressives, a small number, but vocal progressives who say defund the police. Republicans have tried to take advantage of that. But now they find themselves attacking the FBI and a judge in the judicial system. You mentioned Marjorie Taylor Greene. Here's her tweet, defund the FBI. There it is right there. A Trump supporter, big Trump supporter in the House, defund the FBI, to which one of her colleagues, Dan Crenshaw, this is sarcasm, I'm impressed. Democrats finally got us to say defund the FBI. That makes you look unserious when you start looking like that, talking like that. The last part is not sarcasm.
Sure.
But this is what you have. You have people who, who just keep your powder dry Republicans. Let's follow the facts. And then there's Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, you have Mitch McConnell last week who came out with a very terse, very short statement, just saying, just telling the Justice Department to release the information that is out there. And then you have the other wing of the party that is Marjorie Taylor Greene. And that party is the one that's getting all the oxygen. And that's the party that Donald Trump is fueling right now, because we know even before the FBI search, we know that if and when Trump announces his 2024 campaign, it was going to be fueled largely on a campaign of revenge, a campaign of grievance. And this just adds to that. I mean, we're looking at, for example, the rally in Arizona last night where Republican Trump allies were campaigning for the elections ahead of November. There was so much energy in that room fueled by the FBI search. So this is something that Trump's allies are really going to just kind of, seize on this November.
It's a key point in the sense that you talk about these rallies they have, and that we lived through this throughout the Trump years, because he believes you're in a crowd, 8,000, 10,000, maybe 20,000 people in an arena, that's America. It's a good crowd, but it's not necessarily America. It's your crowd in the room. And so for that same period of time, since he came down the escalator, we've been trying to figure out where's the sweet spot for Republicans. Listen here. This is Mike Turner. If the Republicans take the House, he would be the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, an incredibly sensitive position. He's the ranking member right now, an incredibly sensitive position. Listen here where he tries to thread the needle.
Do you take home documents marked special access?
No.
And yet you're casting doubt.
And quite frankly, I've been in the Oval Office with the president. I'd be very surprised if he has actual documents that rise to the level of immediate national security threat.
At the beginning there, an acknowledgement that, if in fact, and the FBI filed an inventory with a court saying they took 11 sets of classified records from Mar-a-Lago, at the beginning, a serious answer, no. They don't belong. They don't belong there. That's what he's saying. They should never have left the custody of a secure location in the United States government. But then he tries to somehow, balance it out to stay on Trump's good side.
And there was a long pause before that no, as he kind of thought about, how do I answer this? And the interesting thing is Mike Turner is not really a bomb thrower. I mean, he's kind of a straightforward Republican. And I watched that whole interview yesterday. It was very painful to watch. I mean, just how he tried to answer the questions. And I think what we're seeing is, as Sung-min said, this wing of the party is really taken over, especially in the House, where they're poised to probably win back the House. And there's not a lot of space for these common sense, straightforward Republicans like Mike Turner or Brian Fitzpatrick or some of the others who would rather, tell it like it is, but feel like they can't because they don't want to invoke Trump's ire.
CNN's Caitlin Polantz live in Washington. Caitlin, what more are you learning about this new request from top senators?
Well, Kate, over the weekend and then today, we have seen a lot of bipartisan calls for transparency around this search, even after we got that search warrant on Friday. So over the weekend, we had two House committee chairs, so both Democrats, asking for a classified briefing from the intelligence community, as well as a damage assessment being done by the Director of National Intelligence. And then this morning, our colleague Daniela Diaz on the Hill, she received word that Senators Mark Warner, who's a Democrat, and the chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, and then Marco Rubio, who is the top Republican on that same committee, they sent a private letter to that Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, as well as Attorney General Merrick Garland, asking for more information about what happened here, what was taken out of Mar-a-Lago. So Rubio said in a statement to CNN, we haven't seen the letter itself, but he said in his remarks, Attorney General Garland claimed there was a substantial public interest in the execution of an unprecedented search warrant on President Trump. As such, the Intelligence Committee has asked the Department of Justice to share with us on a classified basis the specific intelligence documents seized from Mar-a-Lago. There's other transparency efforts that are happening, too, that we're waiting to see if there will be a resolution. News organizations are asking for access to the affidavit in court that would be the narrative supporting that search. But we may never know what is actually in these documents. Donald Trump says he declassified them, but there's no evidence that he actually did that. Kate.
Caitlin, thank you so much for laying it out for us like that. Joining me right now for more on this is CNN senior legal analyst Ellie Honig, a former federal prosecutor. So, Ellie, what do you see in the unsealed documents about the FBI's search of Mar-a-Lago? What sticks out to you in this moment?
Well, Kate, still so many unanswered questions, but we do know a lot more now that we've seen these documents. The most important thing I think we learned about the search itself is what exactly did the FBI find inside Mar-a-Lago and seize? Now, we've seen this new document now called the Receipt for Property. That's a document the FBI fills out at the scene of a search, hands over to the lawyer. This document lists about 33 separate headings and subheadings of items seized. About 20 of them are documents. Now, a lot of them just say generally box labeled A1, box of documents. But the most important thing, some of these entries indicate that the information was not just classified, but TSSCI. What does that mean? That is the highest level of classification in our government, top secret, sensitive, compartmented information. We know the FBI found documents with those markings inside Mar-a-Lago. The other thing that's really important here is we know for sure that Donald Trump's lawyer, Christina Bobb, was present at the search, was given this receipt, and signed for it at 6:19 p.m. on the day of the search.
Now, also, Elliot, with this, you also learn more about the potential criminal charges or the crimes that the Justice Department is concerned about in all of this. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, Kate, so anytime prosecutors execute a search warrant, you have to write out and show a judge that you have what we call probable cause that certain federal crimes were committed. Important to know, probable cause is a lot less than proof beyond a reasonable doubt, which you need in order to charge and convict somebody. Also, it does not specify any person, Donald Trump or anyone else, just says we believe that these crimes were committed. 3 crimes specified by DOJ. 1, mishandling of defense information under the Espionage Act. This Espionage Act has drawn a lot of attention, but all the crime here really means is to conceal or mishandle or destroy information that could be harmful to the national security. The second one is destruction or concealment of government documents, whether classified or not. And then finally, obstruction. That just means removing or destroying documents because they want to keep them out of the hands of some sort of investigators. Important to note, Kate, none of these rely on whether the documents are classified or were declassified.
If they were classified and declassified, also important. Both of these things are true at the same time, though, as you're
Yes.
pointing out. What happens next legally? What more?
So in terms of the formal legal process, nothing will happen unless and until Merrick Garland and DOJ bring a criminal charge against somebody. If that that happens at that point, these documents and much more will be turned over to the defendant in any potential case. That person will then have the ability to challenge the legality of the search. But Kate, we may not hear a lot more through the formal legal channels for many weeks or months.